We are on the brink. Prepare now. Hey everybody, this is Michael with Asymmetrical Preparedness. What are we on the brink of? Well, I'd say we're on the brink of financial collapse. We're on the brink of massive food shortages. On the brink of shortages across the board for lots of things. We're on the brink of war. Yes, there's a lot going on right now. And a lot of these things play into each other. What happens when nations have food shortages or fuel shortages, aka diesel fuel shortages or gasoline shortages? Well, those are both reasons where a lot of times they go to war over it. And what happens then? Say we do get drawn into a major conflict. Then we'll see even more shortages, right? Because everything will have to go for, most things will have to go for the war effort. People saw that in World War II, where people were donating old pots and pans. They were encouraged to grow victory gardens to feed themselves. Although nowadays, I don't think the government would encourage us to do anything. They would empower us. I've heard maybe the draft is coming back. Heard a lot of different things. 300,000 NATO troops on the verge of deployment. Okay, yeah, maybe. Do I think we will be in a major war soon? Yeah, probably. The time is just ripe for it to happen. So what does this mean for us as preppers and people trying to be proactive, not reactive? We can only do what we can. There will be part shortages, there will be food shortages, there will be lots of shortages. We cannot stockpile everything we need to fix our washer and dryer, to fix our refrigerator, fix our vehicle, to replace light bulbs, to replace wall sockets, to, fix our toilets, whatever. We can't stockpile all the parts we need. We need to have a huge warehouse and a lot more money than I have to do that. It's not realistic. So what do? We keep doing what we can. We get the major things we think we'll need, and we need to be of the mindset and the understanding that when things go really south, whether it be world war, whether it be collapse, financial collapse, societal collapse, whatever, that we will have to do with less. We will have to figure out a lot more things by ourselves. We will have to make things work. We will have to do makeshift repairs where it may work, it may not be pretty. Those are the kind of things I'm good at. I like making things work. I can usually fix most things. Like I said, it may not be pretty, but it'll work. It's one of those skill sets that's vital, to think outside the box, to figure things out, to make do with less, upcycle, recycle, reuse, find things around that might work for intended uses. There's a lot of sources for things like this right now. One thing I do, I don't even know why I'm talking about it, it's not really that big of a deal, but anytime I'm throwing out or I'm getting rid of furniture or anything I'm getting rid of that has nuts, bolts, screws, hinges, little parts and pieces that might be useful someday, I remove them from said item before I get rid of it. And I keep them in my I have a man box of all those kind of things. And it has come in use many times. Many times. It's one of those things, so you have all those little spare parts on hand. So don't get rid of all those things. If you have room to store all the little parts and pieces, great. I'm not saying keep a bunch of big things around, but think about that. Also, keep stockpiling food. And even more important than for me than stockpiling food is growing food. You see behind me right here, my new 16 by 2.5 foot wide bed. I didn't make it as wide as most of my other beds because of where it is. I didn't want a super wide bed. Mainly because of access to the back of it. Blackberries grew up there. I'd keep them trimmed down and stuff like that, but I wanted to be able to reach it all from the side. Anyway, new 16-foot bed, not planted yet. It is topped off with topsoil now, full of all kinds of organic material down in there. It's going to be a great bed for years to come. And I put a big positive layer on top of it, so when it settles, I'll still need to fill it up some, but I have to decide what I'm going to plant in there now. And that's a good thing to have to think about. What can I plant in there now? I got the space. Instead of, oh man, I want to plant stuff, but I don't have any space. Some of you guys may be in that situation. If you live in an apartment or a duplex or a small house or something like that, a rental, there are ways you can garden indoors. Grow lights, stuff like that. Hydroponics, aquaponics. I don't know all about that because, I do my thing here. I have space. I mostly do raised beds. If you've seen my garden updates, as a matter of fact, yesterday's video was walking around the garden showing you guys. So you see I do have some in-ground stuff, but I have a lot of raised beds. The ability to replace your own calories, to grow your own calories is vitally important. And yes, fruits and vegetables is not everything. I could probably survive off of what I grow, but this is where tribe comes in. Tribe is important. Mutual assistance groups, whatever you want to call it. Having friends, having people that you can barter with, that you can trade with, that you can help each other out with. Be there for each other. Very, very important. I have tribe members that are more into the raising animals. Several tribe members that have lots and lots of animals. One I talked about recently, I showed he had 2 cows. I was watching his homestead. Well, now he got another 2. So he has 4 cows, and the 2 new ones are both pregnant, which is awesome. So maybe he'll have 6 cows pretty soon. Pretty sweet. He's got enough, I'd say he has enough area to support, about 6 cows, maybe 7 or 8 cows. So yeah, he'll be good. And then that's milk, that's cheese, that's beef. Yeah. So it's nice having that. Do I need to raise my own animals? Yes. That's one of those things that's just, I've been behind the power curve. I'm busy. I'm trying to do everything I possibly can. And there's always more projects to do. Keeping busy, doing the things is very important. Stockpiling food. One tip is if you guys are running out of space for it or you're very limited in space, then do things like get rid of your bed frame. Put your food storage in those black containers with the yellow lids, the heavy duty ones. I like the smaller ones, not the bigger ones, because they're easy to carry when they're full of food storage. The big ones get really heavy. So use the small ones and get a sheet of plywood. Put those underneath your bed, put the sheet of plywood down, put your bed on top. You don't need a bed frame. Or if you love your bed frame for some reason, it's your grandparents or something like that, or it's been the family forever, buy totes that fit underneath the bed so you can slide them underneath. Make nightstands, coffee tables, whatever, out of totes and different things. And just cover them with a nice like blanket or a tablecloth or something like that so nobody even knows what's underneath there. Those are some ways to do. Above your cabinets, in your cabinets, crawl spaces, as long as they're stored properly. There's a lot of places that you can figure out how to and where to stockpile your food. Now, space is still a premium. I know. I run into that issue all the time, figuring out where to put more food storage. So there are other things you can do. You can bury it if you have any land, or even if you don't have any land. Say you're in an apartment in a city. Well, you should have a bug out location. I hope. And you should have caches en route. So find good places for caches and or at your bug out location and bury some food. Get an old cooler, put it in the cooler, seal it up really well in there, put plastic bags around it, and then what you can do the lid of the cooler is take shoe goo, one of my favorite things, and just goop up the whole lid all the way around with shoe goo and then seal it. Yeah, you'll have to cut it out to retrieve the food. Hopefully you won't be in a rush then, and then just bury that. That way it's insulated, it's not going to get wet, it'll be sealed. Oh, throw some oxygen absorbers inside, or right before you seal it, throw some dry ice inside, and that'll get rid of all the oxygen and stuff. So store it properly, but you can bury stuff, you can bury supplies, different locations, and the more you have it spread out, the more you might have access to at least one, if not all of those caches when things go south. As long as you put them in proper locations where they're not going to be compromised. I don't know your area, where you live, what your situation is, how far you'd have to go to cache something. If you live in like downtown New York City, I'm not saying, cache something in Central Park. I wouldn't do that, no way. I would get out of the city and cache stuff there. I would spend as much time out of the city as possible getting to know other areas that are outside the city, because when things go really south, you're going to want to get out of the city, and you're going to want to know prior to getting out where you can go, what's viable and what's not. So think about these things. If we get into some kind of world war, how's that going to affect us? Well, we're not going to all put on gear and go fight a world war. So, what are we going to do? We're just going to do the best we can. I recommend still stockpiling food as much as you can. When they start going after preppers and people like us for confiscating our supplies to help the war effort, like War Powers Act type stuff, that is even more of a time to have your food cached and hidden, not on your property, not at your house, because they will come and take it for the good of society, for the betterment of the nation, instead of you being a selfish little person wanting to feed yourself. Think about society, aka socialism, just taking everything you have. So yeah, have it spread out. Also, you might want to think about the ability to defend what you have. That's very important, because it may not just be the government. It may not, it may be bad people coming to try to take your stuff. And I'm not even saying that, if the gov came, not even saying you might not want to defend yourself then. I'm not advocating it. I'm not saying I look forward to it or want that to happen, or suggest that you try to fight the government. No, I don't suggest that. But in certain situations, it may come down where that might happen. We need to be ready for all eventualities. That's why we're preppers. That's why we prepare. We don't just think about the easy things. We think about all the options, everything that can go wrong. We try to war game and think through all scenarios so that we are ready for as many as we possibly can be. So think about these things. Stockpile what applies to you and what meets your needs and what meets your requirements. And before I forget, I usually forget until late in the video, please subscribe, hit the like button, that little thumbs up, share the videos, comment below, and if you want to help out the channel by sending a donation, there's a little heart with a thanks in it. It's a super thanks. Really appreciate you guys' support. Yeah, we have to be able to do the things too, and this takes a lot of time and effort. I don't mind being here on free on YouTube. I want to help others. But also, if you're interested in more in-depth topics, a lot more tactical stuff, a lot more in-depth type stuff, and personal stuff, check out Patreon. Links in the description below. It's $1 a month, hundreds and hundreds of videos, good exclusive content there. Be part of Team AP. Check us out on Patreon. I love you guys. Have a wonderful day, and blessings to you and yours.